So I know it's been kind of a busy day for everybody. We certainly had a full schedule today, and thank you all for hanging with us for the duration of the day. And for those of you who served as presenters, speakers, and tour guides, I very much appreciate what you've done, because it takes a village to do something like this, and your expertise, your talent, your knowledge is fabulous. We are very lucky in Montana to have a significant number of professionals who know a whole lot about a whole lot. So thank you very much. I want to introduce you to somebody that's very special today. She is very well respected throughout the state of Montana. She's been in her position now for 6 years. She is the executive director of the Downtown Billings Alliance, and if you ever talk to Greg Kruger, he'll tell you that he only passes out her card and not his own. So that tells you something, right? And she brought her entire staff to this conference, and the Billings group has just been fabulous, so thank you all for coming, and I hope you've had a great visit to Missoula. This young woman is a former high school teacher and she was the owner of a national gourmet cookie company, and it's my understanding that Warden's Market used to carry her product line. She interestingly enough, has a bachelor's degree in French from Old Dominion University in Virginia. Blaine Taylor, who used to be a head basketball coach here at the University of Montana, is the head basketball coach at ODU. So, you know, the world goes around and around, right? She is a member of the International Downtown Association Board of Directors, which again tells you how well respected she is, not just in the state of Montana, but across the nation. Please join me in welcoming Lisa Harmon.
Thank you, Linda. That is most undeserved, I feel, and I'm just so happy to be here tonight. I want to thank Missoula. I want to thank the Missoula Downtown Association and for having us here and putting up with all that downtown contingency that we have. We're having a great time, and Julie, thank you for your hospitality, and Jessica and all the rest from Missoula. I am so honored to be here tonight to really introduce to you our keynote speaker. Kit Cramer is president of the International Downtown Association, and I've had the privilege of knowing her and working with her on the board level for the IDA. Kit was named president of the IDA in 2009. And it was just a blessing the day that Kit walked into the IDA. I think all the stars and the moons and everything aligned, and the heavens opened up, and there was Kit. I really do. The IDA, as a new board member, I realized that the IDA was challenged not only because of economic circumstances, but just I think we had some sleepy things going on within the IDA, and I am a board member of the IDA because who I am as a professional today is largely due to the IDA. When I go to IDA conferences, I'm paying tuition, and that's how I've always looked at it. It has educated me as a foreign language high school teacher and a business professional who had a national gourmet cookie company on QVC many times and other things. There really hasn't been a degree out there for downtown professionals, and you have to be a little nutty to be in downtown management, I think. But IDA has really groomed me to who I am today, and I really wanted to give back. So having said that, I got involved on the board level and was lucky to be appointed to the board and realized that the IDA really needed some energy, an infusion of newness and relevancy to its members, and was really at a pivotal point. And I think we all kind of think of that, whether we're Main Street managers, downtown managers, or what have you, is especially in this economy, how are we being relevant? And so Kit came in and did almost what I think is unthinkable in looking at the budget and all the programming challenges that I think the ID faced that you might not have seen from the outside, but if you were on the inside, you were thinking it. And Kit has been amazing, and I am inspired to watch her work. Of course, I'm in Billings, and she's in D.C., and just when I'm around her on the board level, I'm always inspired, and I think you'll be inspired tonight. Kit comes to the IDA with such a great cross-section of experience prior to her appointment as president of the IDA. She has 16 years experience within the chamber, the Charlotte chamber, and I'm an East Coast girl, so I have an affinity for Kit, and you'll really love the warmness in her voice, and well, I think I've lost my warmness a little bit from the East Coast and the South. I'm from Virginia, but anyway, I think you'll be drawn to that. But her cross-section of experience in management, in member services and communication, in economic development. Kit has experience in Main Street programs, chamber programs, has a passion for downtown, is just so gracious. And having said that, don't be late if she has a tour. I was the one chasing the bus in New York in high heels, thank you. Had to stop the bus, I was late. You're not late when Kit, she will drill down. And the neat thing, if you were a part of the listening tour today, you know that she listens, and if she says she's going to do something, she's going to do it. I think you'll be inspired tonight, and it's an honor to introduce Kit Cramer, president of the IDA.
Well, that was a heck of an introduction, and I totally don't deserve it. Am I going to mess y'all up if I move down here? Will it be okay? All right. I'll take the microphone. All right. Because I want to see these slides and as I'm talking with you. This is a story about a urinal. I hope that got your attention. It is a story about a urinal, but it's also a story about 9 other projects besides a urinal project that I think are great illustrations of innovation and leadership in management. And so I want to share them with you. Let's see. Julie. Sister. Is this better? Okay, good. All right, now, first of all, please don't read all the words on these. These slides were put together by award entrants in the Downtown Achievement Awards, so they're for people who are looking at it up close. Instead, just let me tell you that gentleman in the upper picture is doing what you think he's doing. The city of Victoria has a wonderful, vibrant downtown, as you can tell from the picture on the bottom. But they've also got the accompanying issues of lots of people, tourists, downtown workers, and their bodily functions. And so they've had to find some ways to deal with that situation. And the first principle that I want to share with you that I think makes this particular project special is that they recognize the need and are literally doing something about it. How many of you have seen the Dyson vacuum ad on TV? Have you seen the Dyson guy? You know, he talks about how they designed this vacuum cleaner on a ball so that it's easy to maneuver. I haven't gotten one yet, but I hear they're great. But his point is we do things about the obvious problems. And they had an obvious problem here, lots of people complaining. So what they decided to do, they did a comprehensive campaign. They not only did, can you see? Okay. They not only did public awareness campaigns and things of that nature, increased their enforcement in terms of this particular problem, but they decided they were going, and they also brought in temporary urinals, but they were finding that they still it was just a cumbersome issue, it was expensive, and it was not solving their problems. So they decided they were going to take a design approach and develop a pilot project. So they did this, they ended up working with this design, which I think is pretty elegant. The stuff at the top is not a graffiti-friendly surface, so they thought about it from that perspective. The whole thing can be hosed down. The simple design doesn't allow for trash to collect. And it's open structure. In fact, if we go one more, you'll be able to see, I think, well, you'll see there's a gentleman who's just been using the facility. Let's go one more. You'll see it's a crescent shape there, or not a crescent shape, help me, a spiral. And you can see people's feet so that illegal activity isn't going to occur in the space. It's a really elegant solution to a very obvious problem that initially people might just throw up their hands and say, you know, this is just something that we don't need to have happen. The only flaw I think this particular solution has is that it doesn't work for women. And they stated that. But this was a Pinnacle Award-winning project, the City of Victoria, and I think it was a great example of taking your obvious needs that occur in your downtown and addressing them in a very creative, innovative way. The second project I want to show you, I guess the second principle that I would share along with this second project is that we all need an infusion of new blood and new ideas in order to stimulate innovation. And in this particular case, this is the Downtown Cleveland Alliance decided they had a wonderful group of volunteers who've been working for years and years. Well, these people were getting a little crispy around the edges, and they needed an infusion of new folks. So the thing they ended up doing was creating a twist on leadership programs that you may have heard about through chambers of commerce or other types of organizations. This particular project, people have to apply for it. And they apply for it by talking about a specific downtown initiative that they want to champion if they're selected to be a DCA advocate. And I want to share with you some of these projects if I can see. Building a downtown park, a playground downtown. Attracting art exhibits into empty storefronts. A mural project to beautify vacant walls, creating content for downtown's Wikipedia pages, doing, improving the dog amenities for the downtown area, recruiting businesses to open downtown, to open branches. They actually got a vegan restaurant downtown. These were all projects that applicants said that they would champion if they were selected to be a DCA advocate. And what's lovely about this also is that each year they would select one person from that group to then serve on their board of directors. And that person would participate in choosing the next class of folks. Well, what a great way of infusing new talent, young talent, diverse thoughts into a board. A wonderful solution. So I encourage you to employ that kind of thinking into your next project. The next project that I want to share with you, and this is, you can take the previous remarks and employ them here. This project stole this idea, and I love that. And I've never seen people more willing to share ideas than downtown folks are. It's really been wonderful to see that in working with IDA. They created, this is from Columbia, South Carolina, the Columbia Development Corporation. They created City Roots, which is an urban, organic garden and fish farm that was built on a brownfield in a low-income neighborhood that's adjacent to downtown. That just hits on all marks from my perspective. And Columbia is home of the University of South Carolina, so they've got some wonderful resources. If you look at, this is what they ended up building. In this lower corner, you'll see some low country architecture. So they even mimicked low country architecture in the building of this particular facility. Let's go to the next one. The folks who do the work are University of South Carolina students, public school students, and other volunteers. And everybody who comes walks away with a bag of organic vegetables, and they get an organic meal while they're there. I just think it's a very cool way of doing things. They got this idea, the architect who had relationships with the people who owned the brownfield piece of property, heard about it on NPR. This was a MacArthur Genius Award winner for a project that was done in Michigan. And he took the concept, totally stole it, and replicated it in Columbia. Well, you too can steal ideas. You need to seek inspiration. Now, you're going to get some of that with the new blood that we talked about from the DCA Advocates Program, but you also need to read and listen and look for inspiration, because there are lots of people doing lots of fabulous things out there, and you really need to be on the lookout for it. The next project, this one, the lesson here is make lemonade. We all have lemons. Every one of us in a downtown have lemons. This particular lemon is in Roslyn, which is in Arlington, Virginia, which is actually where I live. It's right across the Potomac from Georgetown, where our offices are. And this particular space is right outside one of the largest metro centers for, and by metro I mean literally mass transit, the mass transit center right outside DC. Let's go one more. You'll see that the plans were in place to do this fabulous office tower and observation deck here. And you can also see there were supposed to be 2 of these things being built. So the developer came in and tore down the existing building in an extremely popular area, and this was what was left. And then the downturn in the economy occurred, and this is what they were left with. So their board challenged the staff and said, we've got to do something, because what you don't see in this picture is that just beyond this building, there is another one of these, and across the street from it, there's another one. They have several areas where the developer had already come in and leveled things, but then their money just dried up. Now, the plans are still there, but who knows when they're going to get started with construction. So what they did, can we go back? There we go. No, go forward. I was right. You were right. What they decided to do, they had $20,000 to work with. And with that $20,000, they did a charrette and got input from lots of people. The developers ended up taking soil off of the other construction areas and put them in to create a water garden to serve as a place where they could collect some of the runoff that was occurring. They then developed this plan with the bright circles and kind of emulated that in the plantings that are in the water garden. They had volunteers come out. They used Girl Scouts. They used community groups. They had all kinds of volunteers come out and literally paint all the surfaces that you see there. They put together chairs, big Adirondack chairs and benches, and strung up the sails that are there to provide some shade, all for $20,000, which was a minuscule amount of money comparatively speaking. And it's a well-used spot by all these folks who are waiting on public transportation. So an excellent example of making lemonade out of lemons. This next one is an example of collaboration. And I think this is kind of a theme that runs through many of these projects. This is in New York City, in the Chelsea area. The New York City Department of Transportation decided that they were going to try and reclaim some of the lanes of traffic for pedestrians. So they contacted the Chelsea Improvement Corporation to tell them, we're going to give you back this triangle of space. Well, they came in, and let's go to the next picture, put in these umbrellas and street furniture, the plantings, the trees, trash cans, all that kind of thing, right in the middle of traffic. I think it is the coolest thing. But then they took an additional step. They're doing sunset salsa there. They're also doing, I can't pronounce this other thing they're doing. It's a kind of dance and martial arts combination training that they're doing for everybody in the neighborhood. That they do, so they activated the space. What's it called? Capoeira. That's it. Capoeira? Is that how you say it? It's capoeira. Do you know how to do that? Very cool. So they've activated the space with social activities and totally reclaimed it. Now, they could have said, what are we going to do with this little triangle of space and kind of blown off the Department of Transportation. But they grasped the opportunity when it presented itself. And that's part of innovation, is being at the right place at the right time and taking advantage of those opportunities. And I think it was a really elegant solution. The next one I want to show you is, this is about Kansas City. It's a documentary called The Next American Dream. And actually, we're going to be showing this documentary at IDA's conference and having a panel discussion with folks afterwards. It involves the Downtown Kansas City Council and the Kansas City Area Development Council. And again, it's an excellent example of collaboration, but it's also an example of investing time and investing money in innovation. This particular, Kansas City was about to undergo a $5 billion redevelopment plan. And the announcements were made that they were going to have that plan, and some filmmakers came forward and said, we would like to capture the way the city changes over the process of this plan. And so one organization, the downtown organization, went to the other organization. They in turn decided to sign on, so the collaboration began to occur. They went out and talked to other folks who then got behind the filmmakers. It took 5 years to produce this documentary. 5 years. I know in the chamber world, I would get grief if something took more than a year to accomplish. If it was on the program of work from one year to the next, I'd get grief. 5 years. That's a commitment of time and talent and bucks in order to get something to happen. But the other thing, one other measure that I want to make sure that you incorporate when you're thinking about innovation, is that you really have to measure the results. So let's look at what happened here. The film, look at these numbers. 317 total airings, 48% of the top 25 largest metro markets. They had a short-term goal of getting the project aired, just to get the word out about Kansas City, but their long-term goal is to change the impressions. So if you can imagine, and I've seen this documentary, it's really good, and it presents a very exciting picture for the future of Kansas City, what that's going to do over time for that community. It was quite an investment of time, and it was a risky thing to do. I mean, how many people, filmmakers, pretty interesting group, but they took the risk, they collaborated, they've measured their results, which that measurement gives your board or your sponsors or your volunteers something to hang on to as time goes by, to be able to say, we've accomplished this and this is where we're going. So you've got to have that measurement piece in there as well, but you've also got to have that staying power, because things don't happen overnight, especially in our world. They just don't. The next project, this is kind of a blend of many of the characteristics that I've been talking about for really instilling innovation and leadership. This is the Downtown Raleigh's branding campaign, You Are Here. And it's a great campaign, it's beautifully done, but what's exciting about it for me, as you'll see, is that they've used this R, which is an R for Raleigh, but they've used it everywhere. In the next section you'll see, they've used it in their farmers market, their home tour, they've used it for a restaurant week. They've not just used it for things that they do, but things that other organizations within the community do. Their mass transit system, they've wrapped it around buses. It's everywhere. Now, I've worked with organizations who have a tendency, when they develop something, to want to hold on to it and to say, this is ours, and to be very proud of it. But what the beauty here of the collaboration, by sharing this particular branding campaign with all these other organizations, they exponentially improved the campaign. So everybody was a winner in that, not just their organization. And actually, the organization was a bigger winner than it would have been otherwise, because it's so broadly used. And it's a beautiful campaign and so easy to use for so many things, so it just makes sense. So when you're thinking about collaborating, reach out to your partners. Find the win-win. It can't just be a win for your organization or people are not going to partner with you. It's got to be a win for both organizations. And share. Try and get past some of those turf issues because innovation can really occur when that happens. This is another example that covers several of these points. It includes collaboration. They also did an excellent job of measuring. This is a retail campaign. This was a campaign to attract retail in Philadelphia. And it included not only their downtown organization, but their economic development organization, their city, and their tourism folks also participated. It's called Be In on It. And the overall theme uses their own retailers to tell the Philadelphia story. They want to present a different Philadelphia story than the story they've presented in the past. So they took these retailers, used their images, and used their words to communicate about doing business as a retailer in Philadelphia. And they were also comprehensive in the approach they took, participating, of course, in trade shows and things of that nature, holding fashion shows, and doing it in a very glossy, different kind of way than people had traditionally seen Philadelphia retail. And you can see they used the campaign over and over again. The thing that they credit the success of this particular campaign for is teamwork. The fact that all those organizations who each had a different piece of the economic development pie were all working together on it. It's real strength in that. And in the worst economy that we've all seen in our lifetimes, without a doubt, I want to share with you the statistics. The net vacancy rate increased by 0.3%. That's less than half a percentage point for Philadelphia in their retail sector. And they have over 20 notable retailers and restaurants that have opened since the beginning of the campaign. So the collaboration works. And measuring also works. It's given them all reason to continue. Our next one is another place right outside Washington, D.C. is called Crystal City. Now, Crystal City kind of has a identity crisis, or has had an identity crisis, and I want to use their words for describing Crystal City. They said they've been described as a concrete jungle or a drab office park, neither of which are exciting things. But a principle that I want to convey to you is use what you have. Use what you have and play to your strengths. So they have a lot of walls, and they have a lot of office space. So they've created this art program. Art walls, they went and got art from artists and produced it on, I don't know what this stuff is. Does anybody know what dye bond aluminum is? Okay, well, anyway, now you know. That's what it is. They've produced it on dye bond aluminum and affixed it to the side of blank walls throughout the downtown area, which I thought was a fabulous idea. They then went on to do it's a multi-layered arts program. Crystal Couture plays to retail. They've got lots of retail as well, and they want more. So Crystal Couture was held in February, which is one of the low retail months for them. And they took retail space that they had available and put trunk shows, body painters, fashion shows, people doing makeovers, and featured all their retailers and really encouraged attendants from all over the DC metro area to come in February when things are not great in Washington. March is not a whole lot better. And in March, they did the G40 Summit. So playing off of the G4, they say where arts and politics collide, they took a 5-story building and turned it into a whole arts exhibition with music and modern art throughout the whole thing. It was voted the second best arts exhibition in Washington, D.C. Now I want you to think about it. The whole Smithsonian network is there. Number one were the Terracotta Warriors at National Geographic. And Crystal City was number 2 with G40 The Summit, which I think is pretty cool. They've measured their results. 87% of the people that they've surveyed see Crystal City differently, and they see the arts community as being a critical aspect of that area, which is huge. And they tied the arts with business and economic development, which is something we all need to bear in mind. It's a critical part of quality of life for everyone. They've used what they had. And you all, things that you may not think are assets can be turned into assets. Because you couldn't do this in Georgetown. There's no way. There's not that kind of space. Georgetown has its own issues to deal with. Crystal City found a way to use what they have. Our last example is my hometown, Jacksonville, Florida. They had a couple of problems in Jacksonville, which is pretty interesting. Their organization is called Downtown Vision, and nobody knew what they were doing. So they had a real problem there. Plus, downtown Jacksonville, getting people there, Jacksonville's so spread out, it was difficult to get people down there to begin with. And they had a limited budget. Now, and some of you from really small organizations, remember I was a Main Street manager where I was the sole employee, so I can relate. But they had about $50,000. $50,000 will not buy much in the way of newspaper advertising, won't do a thing for television, etc. So they had to think creatively about what they were going to do. Well, what they ended up doing is using this bubble. You saw the bubble on the previous page, and you see this bubble here. They developed clings for windows for all their retail. They developed big bubbles for their sidewalks, and then they did clings on their parking meters as well. They did about 100 of each. They designed it themselves, and they installed 90% of it by staff. So everything was done by staff. So for example, this one is in the window of a retailer that is a shoe store. Saving your souls Monday through Saturday. Explore the more. I got to share with you, if I can see these things. I apologize. I've got almost 50-year-old eyes, and I have a hard time seeing. Here's an example of one of the sidewalks bubbles that they ended up doing. I love this. This one relates to history. It says, the Great Fire of 1901 burned 2,368 buildings. Rebuilding was a real pain in the ash. And that was right on the sidewalk, and it was there for everybody to see. But they also did them for wayfinding purposes that would direct people to their maritime museum or direct people to Friendship Fountain or the other things that were related to downtown. They also did it for retail. I've told you about that one. Then here's another example of a storefront bubble that they did. This one was on a hotel window. It says, sunrises on the river are so beautiful, you'll beg for a wake-up call. And they incorporated it throughout the entire downtown area, got tremendous media coverage as a result, and it was a great investment. You couldn't have purchased the media coverage that they ended up getting for their $50,000 initial contribution. And I just thought it was a really great program. And they've got a whole list of the results that they had. Let's see if we've got one more picture. Oh, and this is the other thing that they did. They ended up then taking that bubble and incorporating it into every one of their publications. So they were very comprehensive. In terms, those of you who are IDA members, we've done the same thing. We've taken, number one, because we're cheap and have limited bucks, but we've taken the same design and replicated it so that you begin to recognize those things that you receive from us. Well, the people who are receiving things from Downtown Vision, and they were having difficulty being known for what they did, now we're beginning to connect it with the bubbles that they saw on the sidewalk, that they saw on parking meters, that they saw on windows, and it's being immersed through their entire system, which I think was very smart. And so they did a number of the things. They used what they had and used many of the same principles that I've mentioned to you. So let me summarize for you. First of all, you got to recognize the need and be prepared to do something about it. Number 2, get a fresh perspective by involving new blood. Number 3, seek inspiration and steal their ideas. I mean, it's a cheap and easy way to work through things. I didn't mention this to you, but I also think you need to capitalize on trends. The people who are doing the City Roots program are totally capitalizing on a trend. You've got Michelle Obama digging up part of the White House lawn to put in a garden. There's no reason in the world not to capitalize on those types of trends. And the whole local foods movement, it's a beautiful thing. Number 5, turn lemons into lemonade. Number 6, be collaborative, be collaborative, be collaborative. You have everything to gain. Number 7, invest in innovation. Be prepared to take the time, and you've got to set that expectation and that agreement with your volunteers and with your sponsors when you do that, but be prepared to invest in innovation. Number 8, measure your results so that you can give people those signs of hope along the way. Number 9, use what you have. Those are the elements for successful innovation and management. And you've seen me with all my papers here. These are actually 2-page summaries which describe these programs. And they're available to IDA members on our website. One thing I want to mention to you, though, is we're going to be doing a webinar series which will feature each of these award winners, and we'll be doing one per month. The first one's in October with Jacksonville, as a matter of fact, the one with the bubbles. That'll be the first one in October. They're dirt cheap. It's like $35 to participate in one of the webinars, and you do it from your desk, so you don't have to travel or anything. So I encourage you to think about it, and hope that these will give you some tips on finding ways to innovate in your own organizations, because the work that you do is so incredibly important to building community throughout our country. Thanks for having me.
Julie and I work really well together. You know, about, how long have you been with us? 6 years?
I started my 7th year this week.
7th year, 7 years. I'm pretty damn lucky. You know, and when we hired her, I had a board president who said, Linda, hire to your weakness. Julie's my right-hand woman, so thank you. Do you guys have any questions for Kit Cramer about what's going on with IDA? Let me give you a sort of a sense of IDA. I got turned on to IDA by, boom, Greg Kruger. And we've been to a few conferences. I had a chance to present on the downtown master plan and the parking piece of it last year in Milwaukee. Julie has been selected as a presenter this year in Fort Worth. So in a couple weeks, she'll be in Fort Worth talking about Missoula, Montana and events and things that we do here. It was at the IDA conference in Portland when we had the aha moment about how to, or what we needed, you know, a plan to sort of direct our future and where we're going. And you know, we've been members of the National Main Street Association, but I think Billings and Missoula, are you guys members of the IDA yet? Signing you up! Billings and Missoula, I think, have both been members of IDA now for, I'm thinking, 4 or 5 years for us, and probably more like 8. 15. Oh, 15 years. Kicking our booty as usual, but so it goes. And so there are great resources. Rod and I did participate in the webinar on the Target piece a few weeks ago, a month ago or so, and then, you know, as she said earlier, the webinar on the GSA was this week as well. So they are indeed interesting and engaging. And we are switching mics. So what kind of questions do you have about sort of the awards program, maybe resources IDA can help you with? You know, they are just a 5-person staff, so they're the same size of staff as we are and about the same size of staff as you are. How long has IDA been around? 50 years, 50. So downtown achievement, downtown revitalization, downtown work is obviously not new. So no questions? Oh, thank you, Jim. Lay it on us.
Hold on just a second. On those green spaces on potential development projects, how do you create them if they're only short-term, not permanent, emotional, sacred ground?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Here comes a mic.
Sure. Well, and go ahead and repeat your question.
When you mentioned the green spaces and the development projects, how do you create them that they're temporary but they're buildable sites and not emotional sacred grounds?
Well, in this particular case, they asked the developer. The developer decided to do it in order to complement this space. I mean, they felt bad that they weren't going to be able to move forward with the project in Roslyn as well. So they're the ones who carted in dirt from the rest of the sites and ended up putting in the space. Plus, I don't know this specifically. It's going to be a question that I'm going to be interested in asking these folks. It may have been something that they had to do because of stormwater runoff. Don't know. But in terms of sacred space, avoiding sacred, I don't know. I don't know. My answer to that is I don't know. I think you have to kind of work through projects and involve a broad diversity of people, and by doing that, you engender buy-in. That's my suggestion. Do you have a space that you're trying to develop?
I'm from downtown Helena, and we have two very buildable sites, but they're public spaces. No one will touch them anymore as potential. So, I mean, you have this, they're afraid to go against the soccer mom theory. So, I mean, we're all about infill development, but where you, I mean.
Well, it would seem to me that the developers would then need to, in the design of the space, the design of the building, make sure they incorporate some public space along with it, which they should be doing anyway.
But most of the downtowns are built on zero lot lines.
You got an issue.
Yeah. Well, I
Make
guess
lemonade.
what I'm
Make
saying,
lemonade.
it's a great temporary fix, but you need to caution yourself that it's a temporary.
And this place
Fix.
is pretty apparent it's temporary. I mean, even now, there's some wear on the paint and that kind of stuff. And so I think it is a good temporary solution for what was really an ugly eyesore. But it is not something that, it's no Central Park, that's for sure. But that's a good warning.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? We have some excellent resources on our website, and if you are a member of IDA, or if you're not a member of IDA, we're doing a virtual orientation these days that is done through a webinar process, which will actually show you how to make the most out of your membership and where to find things on the website, because it's not the most intuitive website I've ever used. And that has been a frustration for me. We are improving it, but it takes time, and it takes money to do that. So in the meantime, we're showing our members how to use it. And we encourage you to participate in one of those. They're free webinars. We do them once a quarter. If you're interested in IDA and you're trying to figure out whether or not you want to participate, come and participate, because we involve people like Lisa and other members who talk about their experiences in having advisory panels come to town, or participating in a conference or a webinar or on a committee or in public policy, or research, any of the other many things that we do. So I encourage you. Yes?
If I could, being a long-term member of IDA, I have seen the evolution of the website, and it's much better.
Oh, good.
It's not perfect, but it is much better. We in downtown Billings received funding for an RFP for a conference center study. Literally within 20 minutes of me completing the RFP and sending it off to IDA, it was on the website. That's incredible. That's an amazing turnaround.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's one of the things that we've instituted in the last year. We've got, we do a bi-weekly jobs and RFPs email out to members so that you can see the jobs that are available. Actually, that was the favorite part of the website. I find that very amusing. Everybody's going to check out what other jobs are available. But so we decided to take advantage of that and instead send it out to the members on a regular basis, and we sold a sponsorship and made some money on it too. So the RFP place is a great way to get to a broad cross-section of the downtown professional community though. So if you're looking for a vendor for something and you want to shortcut trying to figure out who all the people you need to go to, you can do it through that website. Easy way of doing it.
Sorry, I've used it so many times. We get a great idea, we throw it out there to that website and to the IDA family, and literally within hours we get responses. We've tried this, we've tried this.
Oh, the brain trust is what you're talking about.
Absolutely, that is worth the cost of membership alone.
We have about 200 members who've said they're willing to accept emails from us asking questions that other folks have. And so they're willingly on the list. We collect those questions, send them out to people, and people begin to reply. We've also got, if you're on LinkedIn, we've set up the Brain Trust through LinkedIn so that you can communicate without having to go through the staff too. But you do need to be a member. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Artini is going on at the Missoula Art Museum until 9:30 p.m., and there is lots of bars and restaurants in case we didn't tire you out already. So tomorrow morning we get started around 8 with breakfast, 8:45 with our first session. We have 2 sessions and a closing session with Mayor John Engen tomorrow, and then we'll cut you loose at around noon to go explore on your own. Thank you and good night.